Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. We'll be starting in about 5 minutes. If you can hear me, just type something in the chat window on the bottom right of your screen, and also take a moment to introduce yourself to everyone here. If you're having any issues hearing my audio, let me know. Okay, great. Welcome Rakesh, Anvin, Ria. Welcome to the webinar today. If you take a look at the bottom of your screen, hi Anand, there are certain polls that are available where you can give your feedback, which will help us understand what field you're coming from, what you're looking for in EVs, and you also get a chance to know about everyone else over here. Just have they interviewed with EV companies before? What types of issues they're facing in their careers? So we're all in this together. The topic of discussion today is how do we build a successful career in the EV industry, right? So just take a moment to introduce yourself to everyone here in the chat window, go through the polls, and we're going to be starting in just a couple minutes. Get started in the interest of everyone's time. Let's get started. I'm going to quickly go through the poll results that have come in so far. George, okay. My audio is clear to everyone, right? George, maybe from your side, check if your speakers are working, if you're able to hear any other audio from any other window. I think the calibration of the microphone from my side is okay. Just let me know, everyone. George is having some issues with the audio. Let me know if you can hear me now. Okay. All right. George, most likely it's an issue from your side. Anvin can hear me, and I've asked before if the people have said that the audio is clear. Just make sure that the audio is working. And if it's not, you can just rejoin the webinar. That might help. So yeah, going over the poll results, looks like a lot of people here are from the electrical engineering domain. That is interesting because actually we do get a lot of questions from different engineering domains, and some of the customer calls I personally have been on as well have been people from mechanical, chemical engineering domains who are not sure of how to proceed in the EV space. So we're going to be covering all these aspects today on if you're coming from different spaces of engineering or design management, how do you get into EVs, right? So let's get started. First, the first slide I have over here is talking about basically about my journey in EVs and why you should pay attention to what I'm trying to say or even listen to me, right? And so I've been in the EV industry since 2008, and I've worked with a lot of different EV companies. My first project in 2008 was to design dashboard electronics for EV scooters. That's how I got started. My interest initially was in the embedded domain, and then it grew from there into batteries, power electronics, motor controls, a lot of different areas based on the opportunities I got. And then I worked for 3 years at the Tesla California R&D facility during the Model X and Model S time. And when I was there, Model 3 was in its design phase, and we're going through a lot of design iterations for the Model 3 car. I've also worked on EV bikes, a lot of different powertrains ranging from EV bikes to electric cars, and I've given talks around the world. The latest one was in Gurgaon in India about battery safety, right? So today's topic, however, what we're going to cover is how do we build a successful career in the EV industry. And the advice that I'm going to be giving is for the following people, right? So if you fit into one of these categories, then great, you should listen further. And if you don't fit into it, then still listen. A lot of the advice will still be valid for you. But I'm happy to take a kind of personal one-on-one, if you need personal one-on-one guidance on how to proceed, I'm fine with taking forward the conversation on email after the webinar, right? If you've not noted down my email from the first slide, it's going to be available in the last slide again, but it is Akshay, my name, at makermax.ca, right? So who's this advice for today that I'm going to give? For recent college graduates, people who have just finished or are going to be finishing their undergrad or graduate degrees and want to get into the EV space. They're currently struggling with how to get the right experience. That's one of the things about college graduates. You're like, I just finished a lot of courses, spent a lot of time doing exams and all that, but I don't have the relevant experience to get into the right type of job that I need for in the EV sector, right? So talking about that. Another thing we're going to talk about is ICE veterans. So people who have been in the current automobile industry for past 10 years or more. I've talked to many of them who are worried about what will happen to their current skills and current job, and how will that progress as EVs become more mainstream. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about if you are willing or you are looking to start a business venture in EVs. A startup or looking to partner with another startup, those kinds of things. What are the categories that, based on my experience, you should be focusing on? And another key area of the advice I'm going to be giving today is for professionals who are not in the EV industry or not in the automobile industry, but want to switch over to the EV industry. So the EV industry is actually bringing in a lot of new technical challenges that were not there in the current automobile space. For example, connectivity, IoT, autonomous driving. Those types of things are becoming a lot more mainstream with EVs. So a lot of new sectors or a lot of new skills are needed in the EV space. So it brings in a lot of new set of people getting opportunities to work in the automobile industry now. So we're going to cover all of this. First thing is the basic transition that's happening, and we see news about it every day, and we see this transition happening, like it's accelerating every day that we speak. So what are the areas that you need to focus on to then ride this curve of disruption that EVs are bringing to the automobile market, right? So the 4 areas that we've identified are power electronics. I'm just checking the chat. Sorry, yeah, go ahead. So the power electronics, embedded systems, battery management, and connectivity. All right, so these are the 4 areas where EVs are going to be focusing on. Power electronics, when I say that, it's a broad area. It's been existing for a long amount of time. But the area that you need to focus on is how do we switch voltages from high voltage to low voltage and vice versa, with still being able to transmit a high amount of current efficiently. To give you an example, if you were to switch a 400 volt battery pack down to 12 volt DC, how do you do that conversion and still maintain the high current throughput at the 12 volt output, right? So how do you make an efficient converter that will do that voltage transition and still be able to transfer a high amount of current from the input to the output, and vice versa from low to high voltages? This is seen very commonly in EVs. Another area where power electronics becomes really mainstream in EVs is motor controls. So switching of different types and control of different types of motors, understanding what are the different types of motors that are available today, and how the control strategies of each of those work. Commonly available ones you'll see in the smaller scale EVs like EV bikes and EV scooters is brushless DC motors. That would be a great first step to learn how does the control strategy for a brushless DC motor work. Embedded systems comes from there's a lot of electronics that is inside an EV. One of the things you must have heard of very commonly being talked about is the battery management system. So the battery management system has a lot of embedded systems going on there, right? So it's all mostly microcontroller based, and what the battery management system is doing is actively looking at the signals through sensors coming from the battery. Most of the battery management systems take input of 3 main parameters: voltage, current, and temperature. Based on that input, they have to make a decision of how well the battery is performing, if there has been any degradation to the battery, and release information to the user of the electric vehicle like state of charge, energy estimation, power prediction. Some of this information is relayed to the user, the driver of the EV, and some of this is relayed to other components over CAN or other communication protocols to let, for example, the motor controller know at this point in time how much energy can it draw from the battery pack, right? So really key role of embedded systems in EVs. Battery management comes from the fact that lithium-ion batteries inherently are packing a lot of energy in a lot of energy. If someone can help, a few of the people are still having issues in hearing me. If a few of you can help help out Akash and Parashwar to fix their audio, that'd be great. Meanwhile, I'm going to continue. So battery management is a key role of EVs. And that comes from the fact that lithium-ion batteries pack a lot of energy in a small amount of space, right? So whenever you have a lot of energy in a very small amount of space, there are safety concerns and performance constraints that you have to think about. And battery management systems are doing exactly that, right? So they are actively monitoring the lithium-ion battery, making sure that it is performing correctly, and there are no safety alerts that are happening due to the load that is being put on the battery by driving the vehicle or by charging the vehicle, right? So it's still taking input of those 3 parameters we talked about, and based on that, making decisions on the battery performance. So battery management, a key area of EVs. And another new area that we're seeing a lot now is connectivity, IoT. We've seen this in a lot of other applications, home automation, all types of connectivity, including our energy meters are connected now. And now we're seeing this even in the automotive space, right? So connectivity is a new area of bringing in different types of skills and excelling in the automotive industry. So these are the 4 areas that I've identified or where you should focus on to gain expertise in EVs. Now, here's some evidence of this, what I'm talking about, what's happening today and is very relevant for today's industry. I wanted to share some very recent evidence of what I'm talking about, right? So this is as a clipping that I've taken from the Economic Times, a newspaper, from Mr. Chetan Mani, who is the founder of Sun Mobility, a big EV startup in the Indian ecosystem, EV ecosystem. And he is saying, yeah, he's talking about, there's a full article on this, but he's the main thing he's talking about is that there is a skill gap that exists in the EV industry. But here's the interesting thing he's talking about. He's saying that you need to combine 3 areas, he's saying mechanical, electronics, and software, right? So the culmination of these 3 areas is what they are looking for and what the industry is looking for. And I bring this up because all too often I hear from students and from professionals that, hey, I'm from the mechanical engineering field, or I'm from the design field, or I'm from the chemical engineering field. How can I even be a part of the EV industry? Well, yes, you can, right? So if you're coming from the mechanical engineering field, don't take that as a drawback. Think about that as a foundation that you've laid already and you are good at, these skills that you're good at in the mechanical sphere. Now you need to grow your skills in electronics and software, right? In the key areas the 4 areas that I've identified before. Try to build on your foundation of the mechanical side and try to build on that with power electronic skills, the embedded system skills, IoT skills. Pick one area to start with and grow from there, right? So the more the kind of essence of this, what Mr. Chetan Mani is trying to say over here is that they are looking for, and the EV industry is looking for, people with multidisciplinary skills, right? And similarly, this is a clipping from a press release, a report that was published by Deloitte recently, talking again about the breadth and the depth of knowledge that are needed in the EV industry. So they're looking for multi-skilled engineers who are comfortable with chemistry as they are with electrical and mechanical engineering, right? So key area here, key point to take out of this, what they're saying here is that don't focus all your skills on one specific area. Electrical, I'm from the mechanical or from the chemical, but I should have done electrical, right? Don't think of it that way. Think of that, hey, I needed to have 3 strong pillars to be successful in EVs. I've already taken control of one of the pillars. I need to now have a strong foundation in the other 2 pillars, and then I will be a strong candidate and be able to contribute to the EV industry, right? So this is very recent and very relevant from the industry. This is the requirements coming from the industry, talking to the candidates that are applying, right? So now we're going to go through a few examples. This is an example of a college grad. So I've recently graduated from college. How do I gather the relevant experience to work in the EV industry? So what I have to tell you about that is that the companies are looking for candidates with clear fundamentals. When you are a college grad, don't try to focus. I've seen a lot of people focusing on the kind of buzzword problems and kind of the big words and the big ideas that you hear about. They try to talk about those in their interviews. It's fine, but from a company's perspective, what they are looking for is they're looking for strong fundamentals. So if you are coming from a place where you have those strong, clear fundamentals, even your basics about your electrical side, if you basic understanding of what an EV powertrain consists of, basic understanding of what types of motors are available, what is the difference of different types of motors that are available, basic understanding of why we need battery management systems, how is a voltage read from a cell, right? These basic questions, if you can answer and talk about in a technical interview, this is what companies need when you are coming out of college. And this is what you should be focusing on. And a great way to enter into companies and get your foot in the door is through internships. So actively look for companies that are hunting for the candidates for internships and show your clear fundamentals to them, right? The second case is an example for about an ICE veteran. So a person who has been in the ICE industry, the current automobile industry, for a long amount of time. How do I gain the relevant experience to switch to EVs? Is my job in danger? Do I need to learn a whole new set of skills? What do I do? People are panicking. That should not be the case. You have a very mature and strong foundation that you're bringing with like, you know, 10, 15 years of experience in the industry already. Those things are very, very relevant still in the EV industry, right? So first thing you should do is chart out a list of transferable skills, skills that you have not necessarily gained through reading books, but through experience, right? A few examples are how do you how do you take care of supply chain issues? So if a full automobile depends on a single critical part, how do you and there is a shortage of that part. So for example, that's happening very relevant today because of the virus outbreak in China. There's shortages in manufacturing and supply chain. How do you then incorporate that and make sure that your production is least affected? These are transferable skills that are still relevant in the industry today. These are things you should be talking about or highlighting in your interviews and your resumes, right? Always come with confidence and come with a mentality that you bring a lot of experience, which is true, into the EV industry. This second point is very relevant as it was for the college grads, but even for ICE veterans. Focus on your fundamentals. If you've been in the industry for 10 years, 15 years, it is possible that you've been away from the fundamental concepts that are today being taught or that were taught to you when you just graduated. Basic physics, basic electronics, those kinds of things. Make sure those are cleared up. Basic understanding of EV architecture, understanding of simple understanding of how can I charge a cell? If I overcharge a cell, how much headroom do I have before a safety concern is happening? These are very, very critical points that a company is going to be looking for you to have clarity on before you join them, right? So clear up those fundamentals. One way to do it, I've said over here, is through courses, right? What courses do is a quick drill down of what you need to do in a condensed environment, condensed form, and deliver it to you in terms of online courses, deliver it to you on your computer screen, like you're watching this webinar, right? So the third thing that I've seen working a lot is college students are doing a lot of projects in EVs, right? So try to mentor them, try to share your experience with college students, help them in understanding what type of skills were relevant for you when you got into the automotive space, what type of changes you're facing in the automotive space. Be transparent with them, share what you've learned so far in the automobile industry, and let them also share, be open for new students and young minds to be sharing what they know and what their understanding is about EV technicals, right? So kind of have one way to do that is through mentoring college projects like Baja teams, solar race car teams, and Formula SAE teams, so on and so forth. A lot of colleges, a lot of universities have those teams, so mentor those teams. Now we come to a business venture, people who are wanting to start or have already started a business venture in the EV space. it's a great time to do that. The one thing that I've seen is that, and you'll understand this too. For any industry to be successful, a full ecosystem needs to be developed around it. Why do you think Tesla is always happy to see a new competitor enter into EVs? They're not scared about that happening. They're actually actively trying to make more companies enter into EVs because we need to make a full ecosystem for mass adoption, right? So more and more companies are thinking that way, and more companies are going to be implementing strategies with that thought in mind, right? And when you are entering into your business, your thought should be the same. How do we enable mass adoption of EVs? Not how do I get most of this pie, right? How do I maintain a share of this pie that will help me run my business venture? But how do I expand this pie, make this pie bigger so that everyone is able to benefit, including the industry, including the users, including the customer, including our planet and our environment, right? We need to think big when we're looking at business ventures, and we need to attack different parts of the EV ecosystem. Not everyone should be running towards making the next electric scooter or the next electric bike or making a car that is competing with Tesla, right? There is a full ecosystem, including financials. How do we fund the leasing of batteries? Battery swapping technology, charging technology, looking at how does the grid like how will the power grids be affected with the onset of electric vehicles? Should we have high voltage DC transmission now? Does that make more sense for if we're going to have mass adoption for EVs, right? So there's a full ecosystem that needs to be developed, and you should be focusing on looking at the strengths you bring to that ecosystem and focusing your problem solving and value add on that specific part of the ecosystem and not running after the crowd, right? So that is for business ventures. Okay, so how the next question comes. You've given me so much advice and I understand where you're coming from. I don't know how you're going to help me get there, right? And this is why we have created specific courses to help you in that endeavor, wherever you are, right? If you're a college grad, or if you are a ICE veteran, or you're looking to start a business, a lot of different people have approached us and taken our courses and become successful in the EV industry through that. And these courses are made with that same thought in mind, and how do we bring our best to the EV ecosystem to help the mass adoption, right? So we are focusing on two areas. MakerMax is focusing on two areas, which is skill development and then product development to help EV companies. Some of those products you've seen also, if you've taken our courses or going to take our courses, you will see those products in your own hands. And those are like palm-sized EV kits that we have made to help you get a real-life understanding of what types of hardware go into an actual EV. Be able to start working with that, not when you start with an actual EV company, but even before at your home or at your office or at your lab. Be able to connect a palm-sized hardware kit to your laptop and start working with actual EV hardware and get a hands-on understanding. So both these courses that are coming up, February 10th is our 5-week program on EV powertrain. February 25th is our starting our next batch of the Battery BMS Masterclass 6-month program. The links are below. Any questions I'll be happy to take on email going forward. And this is some of the pictures of the hardware that is shipped to you with the courses. This is all custom designed and specifically made to get you that hands-on understanding of EVs. Another next step, what I want you to walk away with from this webinar is we put up a quiz. If you go to makermax.ca/quiz, there's a 10-question quiz that is available for you. That'll help you get an understanding of where your technical skills currently stand, right? Really quick quiz, should take you less than 5 minutes to complete, but helps you get a understanding of where you currently stand in the EV space. And based on that, we can guide you better. All right, so I'm going to end the presentation there. I'm going to leave my information on the screen, and my email is over there below. Akshay at makermax.ca if you need to get in touch with me, have any questions, or you have a specific case that you need to discuss with me on, hey, I'm coming from this stream, I've done this and this, but it's not worked for me. How should I proceed further? I'll be happy to discuss that on email. Okay, and if there are questions, I'm going to wait around for a couple more minutes, and we'll just end today's webinar from there. And any follow-up questions, if I miss your question on the chat window, I was not actively looking at the chat window while presenting. So if I missed your question, please feel free to reach out to me over email, and we can be in touch. Right? And before I go, I'll show you a video on your screen. Okay. All right. Before I do that, I'm going to take this question I'm getting from Akshay Sharma. Akshay Sharma, I believe you are one of our students already in our courses. Welcome to the webinar. Akshay's question is, can you please elaborate more on what questions do hiring managers generally ask students who have just graduated and looking to enter the EV industry? So this really depends on the position that you apply for. This position that you apply for, what I recommend when you're starting out and you just graduated is look for internships. That's the easiest way and the best way to get your foot in the door of a company, and then from then it gives you basically a stage to showcase your skills and prove your skills for a specific position that you're looking at, right? Right. So that is fine. So if Akshay's follow-up question is that I do not have internship experience. So they're not looking when they're looking for internship candidates, it's very, very different from when they're looking for full-time candidates, right? So succeeding in an internship, what you need to know about is what they're looking for is that you're currently already actively working on an EV-related project. That is something that you should highlight. Since you are already taking our courses, highlight the projects that you're taking in the courses. So for example, if you've ordered the battery kit, if you've ordered the power electronics kit, then talk about those projects, the specific projects, and highlight those in the top of your resume, right? Don't have a generic resume, have a EV section, which clearly identifies the projects that you've worked on and are currently working towards in your resume. Second thing, when you are applying, try to reach out. Don't try to mass apply to mailing lists or general email lists for companies like careers, those kinds of emails. If you apply there is a chance of being selected, but there's a very thorough screening process for candidates. If you find a hiring manager or a recruiter directly on LinkedIn or are able to get it through a contact, try to reach to them directly, and always talk about how not what you want from the company, but how you can help or your skills can contribute towards the company. So for example, since you are taking you've done the battery management kits, right? You've worked on the battery management kits. You can talk about, hey, I've learned about SOC algorithms. I've learned about charging of a lithium-ion cell, and I'm trying to improve the charging mechanism of a cell by implementing a such and such charging method, a 5-stage charging method that by implementing that on this specific hardware that I have, I've been able to realize a 20% reduction in charging time. So right away you have told the hiring person, in this case most likely an HR person, that you have relevant skills to for them to consider you, and you have very directly told them that there is this specific area that you have expertise in, and with that, the hiring manager, what they do from their side is they already know which team to put you in touch with. So the hiring manager's job is first of all to pre-screen you, right? You've passed that stage, but now they need to know which technical team or which other team to forward your application to, right? So you're making that job also easier for them by telling them that, hey, I have an expertise, or I have a very strong interest in this area, and I'm already actively today as we speak working towards improving these algorithms in this way, and this is how it'll benefit you. Boom, right? Like right there, they know exactly who to put you in touch with, and exactly how you would be benefiting that specific position, right? So have a EV section in your resume, and that can be right under your education section, or even highlighted right at the top. The second thing is when you are in your summary in your resumes, when you're talking about summarizing a lot of times in resumes, people put the summary section, few lines on what they are looking for, objective or summary. Don't concentrate on what you're bringing to the company. I am implementing a new charging algorithm that has shown to increase charging times by excuse me, by 10% or 20%, and this is how I'm implementing this on a specific hardware that I currently have, right? And so, and based on my research, this is how I can benefit your company, right? So directly you've told them how you can benefit instead of how they can benefit you. So focus on those skills, and I'm happy to take follow-up questions on recruiting or hiring questions on email. Okay, I'm going to take one more question. Excuse me, I'm just going to have some water. Okay, questions coming in about how do I look for opportunities? Should I wait for campus placements? Is that the only way to look for EV opportunities? Specifically, they're saying that Prashwar Mishra, it's a question from him. I mean, waiting for campus placements is the only chance they have, as the industries working in the electrical domain are not as open as those in the computer science domain. Interesting. So my recommendation on how do you look for opportunities? You need to actively hunt for opportunities. You know, it's quite an interesting position. We also actively hire at MakerMax, right? And I have been previously working with companies in the EV industry, and now I'm on the other side. I'm trying to hire candidates in the EV industry. I've seen the table from both sides. So what I can tell you is, from the candidate side, right? From the candidate side, you need to come. This brings me back to the answer I gave for Akshay's question, which is you need to show them how you will benefit them, and you need to stand out from the crowd, right? From a hiring manager's perspective, we are eagerly waiting for the right types of candidates to join our team as we are growing. Finding those right candidates is always an uphill task for a company, because there are so many applicants to screen through, and finding the right skill is it almost never happens. Finding the right skill, the right interest, the right motivation, the right geography, location of the candidate. And when you are screening through hundreds and hundreds of applications every day, you automatically start to start to look for certain words or certain key areas that you're going to be focusing on. So you need to have a quick filter in your mind on yes, no for a certain candidate. Now, how do you pass your job, Prashwar, when you're looking at applying for these EV companies? Think about from their perspective. They have a quick filter, and your job is when you apply. It doesn't matter how you apply. You can apply through their website, a LinkedIn job posting, some other job posting site that you have found, most preferably directly to a person instead of a generic email list. But it doesn't matter how you apply, you have to be thinking about, I don't want to, when I go through, when my resume and what I've said goes through that quick filter, I don't want to be put in the no bin without having actually the hiring manager having the time to go through my full experience, right? Most of the candidates, sometimes even good candidates, fall into the no bin just because they haven't taken the effort to highlight their experience, which is relevant for that specific company and that specific job. So please don't mass email companies. If you are going to have a hiring manager put the effort into reading your resume, you have to put the effort into writing a catered, personalized resume, as well as a small, just a few lines, 4 lines, 5 lines, nothing more than that in the as a cover page or an email. This is how I can start producing results for you because I have this experience, right? So if this is how you approach it, all these things about coming from this domain, mechanical domain, electrical domain, chemical domain, it starts becoming less important. Still is important for you to have the right skills, but it is more important for you to stand out. Um, yeah, and then we have some questions on, okay, I'm going to take 2 more questions. One is from, again, if I missed your question, I'm really sorry. Just please reach out to me on my email. It's on your screen, and I'll be happy to take, give you more feedback over there. 2 more questions I'm going to go with. One of them is that I'm coming from a mechanical background. How do I start to design a BMS? A question from Abhishek. Okay, so I actually hear this a lot. One thing, as I hope you've learned out of this talk, Abhishek, is that when you are coming from a mechanical background and when you are talking to a EV company in your interview, coming from a mechanical background, don't think of that as a disadvantage, right? Like, don't think that you're coming from a mechanical background. I really hope they hire me. That would be such a great gesture from their side. No, you're bringing in very relevant skills coming from the mechanical domain. Your intention is, how do I get the clarity of concepts in electronics? Choose one of those 4 areas I highlighted: power electronics, embedded systems, connectivity, or battery management, right? And it seems like, based on your question, you said, can I design a BMS by myself? So you have chosen to become or grow your skills in battery management. That is a good first step. You've made that choice. Now, how do you get to a place where a company will accept you in a battery management position, right? So a battery management system is going to be, there are certain similarities between different battery management systems that you'll find from company A to company B, but most of the time, the battery management system for a specific company will be different than a battery management system that company B uses, right? So if you apply to Mercedes, their battery management system will be working differently. The signals that's going to be exchanging with the motor controller, the DC-DC converter, the heads-up displays, all kinds of things, those signals are going to be very different. The communication protocols might be different. Their algorithms might be different, right? And then if you apply to, for example, Tesla, right? And this is because each company is putting effort into building their expertise in their own powertrain. So how do you start to design a BMS is by taking those first steps. Designing a BMS comes about with your expertise in firmware, expertise in embedded systems, and electronics. So if you break down a BMS, these are three different areas that you need to know about and you need to concentrate on to be able to successfully design a BMS. So now that you have chosen to design a BMS, choose embedded systems, firmware, or electronics, and start to get better at those skills, right? And you can do that through courses that we provide, courses that you find somewhere else, or a specific always focus on hands-on learning, right? So you can also, if you feel comfortable, get specific kits. For example, we have the Ion board, the Ion hardware kit. Just search makermax Ion, Ion board. That is a palm-sized board that will um, help you start writing firmware for battery algorithms. We have all kinds of tutorials available on how to get started on our website. You can choose to have an Arduino based board if you're already comfortable with Arduino programming, or if you're already a little bit advanced in programming, you can start with an STM based board. And so it's really flexible. All kinds of tutorials available on our website. A great step to start learning about firmware, right? Similarly, I mean, so kind of that is the choice that you have to make on break down a BMS, understand this is a BMS, these are three key areas. I'm going to start attacking this. After this, I'll start learning about this, and I'll start learning about this. So that's how you should that's how you should go about it. The expertise in BMS is not going to happen overnight, but if you break down the problem into simpler problems, start making hands-on experiments and gaining exposure that way, we have a lot of tools available to help you with that. And that's how you should start. Okay. Akshay Sharma, a lot of relevant questions. Please send me these on email. I'll be happy to talk about them. Regarding your question about our DC-DC converter course, that we are currently working on that, and it's scheduled to be released this summer. And it's going to be about a 4 to 6 month masterclass on different types of DC-DC converters, specifically for electric vehicles. So yeah, and we'll be in touch as that as summer approaches and that course is released. We'll be in touch with you. How can I start from Nihal Kumar? How can I start if I want a startup from the so I guess what you're trying to ask is, how do I start up in the EV domain? From Nihal, the question brings me back to my slide on business ventures. So start up, look at the skills that you bring, Nihal. Look at the skills that you bring to the industry today. Sit down and think about, okay, if I'm a student, I have done these courses. I have relevant lab experience in these 3 areas or these 2 areas. Based on that, or if I'm a professional, I have 5 years, 10 years of experience in this area. Based on that, that is one kind of sheet that you should prepare. The second sheet that you should have in front of you is the full EV ecosystem, right? Just search EV ecosystem on the internet. That'll give you an idea of what types of things are needed for EVs to be successful. We talked about a few of those in the webinar itself, right? That includes it's not always about technology. It's also about, how do I set up micro loans or financing for people who want to get a scooter, for example, or a electric car, but can't afford it because of the high cost of batteries. So about 1/3 or 1/4 of the cost of an EV is in the battery itself. So if you figure out a way to, how do you finance batteries and kind of take that out of the full cost of an EV, voila, like you have a solution on financial, kind of how to help the financial industry in getting mass adoption of EVs. So it has to come from what type of skills you have and what you can contribute. Don't The one mistake everyone is making, a lot of people are making, is running after investments, running after keywords, running after big names. For example, everyone is trying to make the next best EV scooter or EV car. There is like so many other problems, even for those EV cars to be fully adopted in a certain economy or a certain space. There's so many more problems to solve. If you are focusing on those other problems instead of the mainstream problems, your chance of success becomes a lot more, because the startup period that you have, you'll have less competition in the startup period. You'll most likely need less capital as well. So yeah, so two things you need to do: look at your skills, look at your experience, and then search on Google about EV ecosystem. What are the different areas? Understand what needs to be accomplished in order for the EV ecosystem to be successful. All right, so I'm going to end the broadcast there. I'm going to leave you with a video. And again, my email is on the screen. Note that down. Write to me after the write to me after the webinar, and if any specific questions, I'd be happy to take it there. We also have forums, which are a great place for discussions, technical discussions, any further discussion on EVs. Just go to makermax.ca/forum, FORUM. Great place for current students, previous students, or new students, professionals to discuss specific areas and topics on EVs. I'll leave you with that, and I'm going to also just play end this broadcast with a introduction video on MakerMax courses specifically and how they can help you. So if you haven't watched that before, feel free to watch that, and that'll give you a better idea of
Hi,
how
and
our
welcome to
courses are
MakerMax.
helping out.
At MakerMax, we strongly believe in the benefits of practical learning. And we want you to experience this as well, which is why we have created this learning platform. It works in two distinct ways. The first is through online courses on electric vehicles. Now, these online courses have been created through years of experience that are condensed in 4-week or 6-month long courses. And these are specially designed to give you an edge in your understanding, clarity of concepts, in your knowledge, and an edge in your career. Now, these courses are coupled with our customized hardware solutions. These hardware solutions are designed by the MakerMax team, specially for these courses, to allow you to get a very practical, real-life understanding of the material that you're learning in the courses. These kits, the hardware kits, ship to you worldwide. And you're able to, first of all, have a touch and feel of the hardware that goes into electric vehicles. You're then able to perform experiments on this hardware to really develop an intuition of the concepts that you learned in the courses. And this approach with the courses and the hardware kits has shown to really increase retention, has shown to increase your understanding, the clarity of concepts, and especially when you are dealing with problems in your real life, when you're talking about technical debugging for electric vehicles, these experiments that you perform on the hardware and coupled with the knowledge that you learned in the course have shown to have such a great impact in being able to solve the deeper technical problems of the industry today. So we want you to experience this as well. So I've put a box below to put your name and your email. And this will allow me to get in touch with you and to introduce the different components of our learning solutions and to help you develop that deeper understanding in electric vehicle concepts, including batteries, battery technology, BMS, in charging, in motor controls, in power conversion, power filtering. We have so much of exciting stuff waiting for you So put your name and your email down below, and I'll be in touch with you on email to introduce you to the different components of the learning solutions that we have here at MakerMax and how they can really propel your career further to open up new opportunities for you in the electric vehicle industry.